Lily Harrison pressed her face against the glass wall, watching tiny stars drift past like dust in sunlight. The diplomatic station spun slowly through space, creating artificial gravity that made her stomach feel funny sometimes. Right now, though, her stomach felt funny for a different reason. She had slipped away from her father's boring meeting and found herself in a place she definitely was not supposed to be. The biological archives stretched before her like a frozen museum. Row after row of cylindrical chambers lined the walls, each one filled with blue-white mist that swirled and danced. Labels glowed softly on each chamber, displaying words in multiple languages. Lily walked slowly between them, reading the Earth names. Some she recognized from school. Others were completely new to her. A wolf lay suspended in one chamber, its gray fur perfectly preserved, its teeth visible even through closed jaws. 2 chambers down, a massive bear seemed to float in the cryo-mist, paws bigger than Lily's entire head. She stopped at each one, trying to imagine these creatures moving and breathing and alive. "You should not be here, young one." Lily spun around, her heart jumping into her throat. A woman in a white lab coat stood behind her, arms crossed but not looking angry. She had kind eyes behind thick glasses and gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. "I am sorry," Lily said quickly. "I got lost. My father is Ambassador Harrison. He is in the negotiations and I got bored and—" "I know who your father is," the woman interrupted, but she smiled. "I am Dr. Yuki Tanaka. I maintain this collection. And you are not lost. The archives are 3 levels down from the diplomatic wing. You had to take 2 elevators and pass through 3 security doors to get here." Lily felt her face grow hot. "I wanted to see. My father talks about Earth all the time, but I have never been there. I wanted to see what it was really like." Dr. Tanaka's expression softened. She walked forward and stood beside Lily, looking at the bear in its frozen sleep. "Earth is not like this anymore. These animals are gone now. Most of them died a very long time ago." "Why?" Lily asked. "What killed them?" "We did," Dr. Tanaka said simply. She moved along the row of chambers, gesturing to each one as she passed. "The wolves competed with us for food. The bears needed the same forests we needed for farms and cities. The great tigers hunted the same prey we needed to survive. One by one they disappeared. Some we hunted directly. Most we simply outlasted," Lily frowned, trying to understand. "But humans are not very strong. We do not have claws or big teeth. How did we win?" Dr. Tanaka stopped at a chamber near the end of the row. This one was smaller than the others. Inside, an animal about the size of a large house cat lay curled in the cryo-mist. Its fur was black and white striped, its body stocky and low to the ground. Sharp claws extended from its paws even in frozen sleep. "This one tells the best story," Dr. Tanaka said quietly. "Do you know what this is?" Lily shook her head. "A honey badger," Dr. Tanaka explained. "One of the last animals to survive the great extinctions on Earth. Scientists called it the most fearless creature on the planet. It would fight lions. It would raid beehives and ignore thousands of stings. It could take bites from venomous snakes and survive. Its skin was so thick that predator teeth could barely pierce it, and it never ever backed down from a fight." "So why is it here?" Lily asked. "Why did it not survive if it was so strong?" Dr. Tanaka smiled sadly. "Because strength is not everything. The honey badger was incredibly tough, incredibly brave, incredibly fierce. But humans were more persistent. We did not need to be stronger. We just needed to keep trying longer than everything else. We outlasted the bears, the wolves, the tigers. Eventually, we outlasted even the honey badgers." Lily stared at the frozen animal. It looked peaceful now, but she could imagine it fighting and refusing to surrender. "That seems sad." "It is," Dr. Tanaka agreed. "That is why we keep them here. Not as trophies. As reminders. Your father and the other diplomats are upstairs right now, trying to convince alien species that humans deserve a place in the galactic community. Do you know what those aliens think of us?" Lily shook her head again. "They think we are weak," Dr. Tanaka said. "They look at our soft skin and small teeth and light bones. They scan our biology and see prey animals. They wonder how we ever survived on our own planet, let alone reach the stars." "But we did survive," Lily said. "Yes, because of what we learned from creatures like this." Dr. Tanaka tapped the glass of the honey badger's chamber. Earth was not a kind world. Everything there evolved to kill or to survive killing. Humans had no thick skin, no venom, no claws. We had something better. We had the ability to never give up. The honey badger fought until it could not fight anymore. Humans fought, then learned, then changed, then fought again. We adapted. We persisted. We outlasted everything. Distant alarms suddenly echoed through the archives. Dr. Tanaka's communicator beeped urgently. She pulled it from her belt, her face going pale as she read the message. "We need to leave now," she said, grabbing Lily's hand. "There is a situation developing in the station. Your father will be looking for you." "What kind of situation?" Lily asked as Dr. Tanaka pulled her toward the exit. "The kind that tests whether the galaxy is ready to learn what humanity really is," Dr. Tanaka said grimly. Behind them, the rows of frozen Earth predators waited in their blue-white mist, silent witnesses to the truth about survival. Old Stripes, as the researchers had nicknamed this particular honey badger, remained perfectly still in its chamber, unaware that its long sleep was about to end, and that one final lesson remained to be taught. Ambassador David Harrison hated the way Counselor Brath smiled. The massive reptilian alien sat across the negotiation table, his scaled lips pulled back to reveal rows of serrated teeth. Each tooth was as long as a human finger. Each smile was a reminder that humans were physically outmatched by nearly every species in the galaxy. "You claim Earth as a harsh world," Brath said, his voice like grinding stones. "Yet your bodies tell a different story. Thin skin, blunt teeth, weak bones that break easily. You are clearly a prey species that stumbled into intelligence." David kept his face calm even though anger burned in his chest. "Humans have survived and thrived on Earth for hundreds of thousands of years. We have built civilizations, created art, developed science. With technology," Brath interrupted. "Remove your tools and you are helpless. My species evolved natural armor plating. The Vor have venom glands. The Kresh have enhanced strength and regeneration. What do humans have naturally? Nothing." Around the circular table, representatives from a dozen alien species watched in silence. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked neutral. None spoke in defense of humanity. David understood why. Supporting a weak species offered no political advantage. Better to wait and see which way the wind blew. "The Galactic Council has always evaluated species based on merit," David said carefully. "Humans have proven our technological capability. We have shown peaceful intentions. We follow galactic law. What more do you require?" "Proof that you belong here," Brath said. "Not through borrowed tools, but through inherent strength. Show us you are survivors, not accidents of evolution." Before David could respond, every communicator in the room began beeping simultaneously. The sound filled the chamber like angry insects. David pulled out his device and felt his blood run cold as he read the message. "Unauthorized docking. Swarm vessel. All personnel, lockdown protocols active." Brath stood slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. "The swarm here? This station is neutral territory." The doors to the negotiation chamber burst open. Commander Ruth Okafor strode in, her security uniform marking her as the station's military authority. Her dark skin glistened with sweat and her jaw was set tight. "We have a major breach," she announced. "A swarm infiltration team disabled our defenses before we detected their ship. They are moving through the station now, herding people into designated zones. I need all ambassadors to evacuate to the secure levels immediately." "Herding?" asked a bird-like alien counselor. "What does the swarm want with a diplomatic station?" Ruth's expression was grim. "They are cataloging species, sorting by combat capability and potential threat level. They have declared the station as newly claimed territory and all inhabitants as resources pending evaluation." David's heart stopped. "Resources?" "They view most species as potential protein sources," Ruth said bluntly. "They are separating combat-capable species from non-combatants. Humans have been sorted into the harmless category." Brath laughed, the sound harsh and mocking. "Of course they have. This is what I have been trying to explain to the Council. Humans are prey. The swarm recognizes this instantly. They scan your biology and see weakness. We need to evacuate now," Ruth insisted. "I have teams trying to fight back, but the swarm came prepared. They have heavy combat drones and their hive intelligence is coordinating faster than we can respond." The counselors began moving toward the exits, some faster than others. David grabbed Ruth's arm. "Where is Lily?" "Where is my daughter?" Ruth checked her tablet. Last sensor ping showed her near the biological archives. "I have a team moving that direction, but what?" David demanded. "The swarm is advancing through that sector," Ruth said quietly. "They are breaking into sealed areas and cataloging contents. The archives are in their path, David ran. He heard Ruth shouting behind him, but he did not stop. The corridors of the station blurred past as he sprinted toward the elevator banks. Other people filled the hallways, some running, some frozen in fear. He pushed through them, his mind focused only on reaching his daughter. Behind him, Brath's mocking voice echoed through the communicator all ambassadors carried. Let this be your proof, Harrison. When the swarm processes your people like livestock, the Council will see the truth. Humans are not survivors. You are victims who lasted longer than you should have. David reached an elevator and slammed his hand against the call button. The doors opened immediately and he threw himself inside, punching the button for the archive level. As the elevator descended, he pulled up the station's security camera feeds on his communicator. What he saw made his blood freeze. Swarm drones moved through corridors like a living tide. Each one stood nearly 3 meters tall, with segmented armor plating and multiple limbs ending in cutting tools or grasping appendages. Their heads were eyeless, relying instead on chemical sensors and electromagnetic detection. They moved with perfect coordination, their hive mind allowing them to act as one unified organism. David switched camera feeds desperately, trying to find the archives. When he finally located the right feed, he saw his daughter standing in front of a cryo chamber. Dr. Tanaka stood beside her, both of them facing down 3 swarm drones that blocked the exit. The elevator doors opened. David ran harder than he had ever run in his life, following the signs toward the biological archives. The sounds of the station changed as he descended. The orderly evacuation noises from above gave way to harsh clicking sounds and the occasional scream. He rounded a corner and nearly collided with a swarm drone. The creature's head swiveled toward him, sensors analyzing his biology in microseconds. A synthesized voice emerged from somewhere in its chest. Human. Adult male. Harmless classification. Proceed to designated holding area or be processed. David backed away slowly, then turned and ran in a different direction. The drone did not pursue. It had evaluated him as non-threatening and moved on to more pressing tasks. The casual dismissal stung more than any of Brath's insults. Somewhere below, his daughter waited in a room full of frozen Earth predators. David wondered if Brath was right. Maybe humans were just prey animals with delusions of grandeur. Maybe the swarm's evaluation was more honest than humanity wanted to admit. He would find out soon enough. Dr. Tanaka pulled Lily behind a row of cryo chambers as the swarm drones entered the archives. The clicking of their legs on the metal floor echoed through the cold room like a death march. Lily's heart beat so loud she thought the creatures might hear it. But Dr. Tanaka had explained that the swarm sensed through chemicals and electromagnetic fields, not sound. 3 drones spread out through the room, their sensors sweeping back and forth. They moved with eerie coordination, never bumping into each other, each one instinctively aware of where the others were positioned. The hive mind made them efficient hunters. They never needed to communicate because they were all part of the same thinking organism. Stay quiet, Dr. Tanaka whispered. They are cataloging the specimens. They might not consider us priority targets if we stay still. Lily watched through the gap between 2 chambers. The lead drone approached the wolf's cryopod and extended a scanning appendage. Light played across the frozen canine for several seconds. Then the drone moved to the bear, repeating the process. Preserved genetic material detected, a synthesized voice announced. Earth origin species. Combat capability assessment significant. Current status deceased and frozen. No immediate threat classification. The drones continued their systematic examination of each chamber. Lily realized they were working their way down the row, coming closer to where she and Dr. Tanaka hid. Her legs trembled. She wanted to run, but Dr. Tanaka's hand on her shoulder kept her anchored in place. The nearest drone stopped at the tiger's chamber. Its sensors played across the massive striped cat, lingering on the teeth and claws. Apex predator classification. Earth origin. Extinct status confirmed. Then the drone's head swiveled directly toward their hiding spot. 2 human life forms detected. Adult female. Juvenile female. Harmless classification. Come forward for processing. Dr. Tanaka stood slowly, pulling Lily up with her. There was no point in hiding anymore. The swarm did not rely on eyesight. They had known exactly where the humans were the entire time. Please, Dr. Tanaka said, her voice steady despite the fear Lily could feel in her shaking hands. We are scientists. We are not combatants. This is a research facility. All resources on station are being processed and categorized, the drone responded. Human species evaluation indicates minimal defensive capability. Soft tissue, weak skeletal structure, no natural weapons. Classification, potential protein resource pending council evaluation. The words took a moment to register in Lily's mind. When they did, she felt sick. The swarm was not just invading. They were deciding which species were worth keeping alive and which ones were only good for food. A second drone moved closer, its multiple limbs extending toward Dr. Tanaka. Adult female will be relocated to holding area. Juvenile female will accompany. Wait, Dr. Tanaka said, stepping back. You cannot just take people. This is a neutral diplomatic station. There are laws. Laws are created by the strong to control the weak, the drone interrupted. The swarm recognizes only capability and resource value. Humans demonstrate neither. The drone's limb wrapped around Dr. Tanaka's arm. She cried out in pain as it began pulling her toward the exit. Lily grabbed onto her other hand, trying to pull her back, but she might as well have been pulling against a mountain. The drone did not even slow down. Let her go, Lily shouted. She did not do anything wrong. Juvenile displays aggression, the lead drone observed. Scanning for weapons or enhanced capabilities. Scan complete. No threat detected. Juvenile is harmless, that word again. Harmless, as if being human meant being nothing. As if all of history meant nothing. As if her father's negotiations and humanity's achievements and everything humans had done to survive and grow and reach the stars meant nothing at all. Lily's feet slid across the floor as she was dragged along with Dr. Tanaka. They passed the row of cryo chambers moving toward the exit. In moments they would be taken to some holding area where the swarm would decide if humans were worth enslaving or just worth eating. Her hand brushed against one of the chamber controls, the honey badgers. Chamber old stripes floated in the blue-white mist, peaceful and frozen. Dr. Tanaka's words echoed in Lily's memory. The most fearless creature on Earth. Never backed down from a fight. Outlasted by humans only because humans were more persistent, not more powerful. The drone was stronger than Lily. It was stronger than any human. It was probably stronger than the honey badger, too. But Dr. Tanaka had said strength was not everything. Lily's fingers found the emergency release lever. Stop, the lead drone commanded. Step away from the cryo chamber. Tampering with station equipment is prohibited. Or what? Lily asked. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted, but she forced herself to keep talking. You already said we are harmless. You already decided humans are weak. What does it matter what I do? Juvenile displays illogical behavior, the drone said. Compliance is required. 3 drones now faced her directly, their attention fully focused on the small human child standing in front of a frozen animal. Through their hive mind connection, every swarm unit on the station became aware of the situation. Security cameras captured the moment. On screens throughout the station, ambassadors and evacuees and security personnel all watched. In the diplomatic chamber, Counselor Brath watched with cruel amusement. The human child will be processed. This is what happens to prey species. Ambassador Harrison reached the archive level and ran toward the entrance, but swarm drones blocked his path. He could only watch through the doorway as his daughter stood alone. Lily's hand tightened on the lever. She thought about all the extinct animals around her. The wolves and bears and tigers that had fought against humans for the same world. They had been stronger. They had been fiercer. They had better weapons built into their bodies, but humans had outlasted them all. My teacher told me, Lily said quietly, that we killed all the monsters on our world. You looked directly at the lead drone's sensor array. Show them why. Earth has no beasts left. Lily pulled the lever. The cryo chamber hissed as it began its emergency wake cycle. Warm air flooded the sealed container, dispersing the blue-white mist. Old Stripe's body twitched as ancient preserved cells began responding to stimulation protocols designed to revive specimens without tissue damage. The swarm drones analyzed this new development for exactly 3 seconds. Calculating threat probability and response requirements, they calculated incorrectly. Old Stripes opened its eyes to a world that made no sense. The last thing it remembered was the conservation facility. Handlers in protective gear, the sting of the sedative dart. Now it lay in a metal box filled with warm mist, and beyond the clearing glass stood creatures it had never seen before. Tall, armored, multiple limbs. moving with hostile intent toward something small and vulnerable. The honey badger's brain processed this in the way evolution had designed. Unknown creatures. Aggressive posture. Threatened young nearby. Old Stripes attacked. The cryo chamber door burst open as the honey badger launched itself forward. It moved with a speed that shocked everyone watching. The swarm drones had calculated based on mass and muscle structure, predicting standard mammalian reaction times. They had not accounted for a predator that evolution had stripped of all fear responses. Old Stripes hit the nearest drone low, going for the joints where the leg segments connected to the body. Teeth designed to crack through turtle shells and dig through concrete-hard termite mounds tore into the biomechanical armor. The drone staggered, tried to shake off the attacker. The honey badger held on. Threat detected, the swarm hive mind announced across all units. Small Earth predator. Unexpected aggression level. Recalculating danger assessment. The second drone moved to assist, extending a blade-like appendage toward Old Stripes. The honey badger released its grip on the first drone and twisted in midair, landing on its feet. The blade passed through empty space. Before the drone could retract its limb, Old Stripes was on it, climbing up the extended appendage like a ramp. Lily stumbled backward as the battle erupted in front of her. Dr. Tanaka grabbed her shoulders and pulled her behind a row of chambers. "Do not look away," the scientist said urgently. "This is what they need to see." Throughout the station, on every screen that the swarm had not disabled, the fight played out in real time. Ambassadors watched. Security forces watched. Commander Okafor watched from her command center. Ambassador Harrison watched from the blocked doorway, his heart in his throat. Old Stripes reached the second drone sensor array and attacked with methodical fury. The drone tried to grab the honey badger with its other limbs, but the loose skin that had evolved to prevent predator bites served equally well against mechanical grasping. The drone's appendages slid off, unable to get a solid grip. The third drone calculated that standard restraint protocols were insufficient. It deployed a shock appendage, designed to deliver an electric charge that would incapacitate most biological threats. The appendage made contact with Old Stripes' flank. The honey badger flinched, snarled, then attacked the third drone with increased aggression. Electrical deterrent ineffective. The swarm hive mind noted. Target demonstrates high pain tolerance. Updating threat classification. But updating classifications required time, and Old Stripes had no intention of giving them any. The honey badger had fought leopards and lions. It had raided beehives while being stung hundreds of times. It had dug venomous snakes out of their burrows and eaten them despite being bitten repeatedly. Pain was simply information to be acknowledged and then ignored. The first drone, damaged but functional, tried to flank the honey badger while it was engaged with the third drone. Old Stripes sensed the movement and dropped to the ground, letting the two drones collide with each other. In the confusion, the honey badger went for the damaged joints on the first drone again, widening the tears in its armor. Fluid that might have been hydraulic oil or might have been something biological leaked onto the floor. The drone's movements became erratic. Old Stripes pressed the advantage, worrying at the joint like it would worry at a stubborn root blocking access to an underground burrow. The joint failed. The drone's leg separated from its body. It collapsed sideways, trying to compensate for the sudden imbalance. Old Stripes was already moving to its next target. "This is impossible," Counselor Brath said, watching the screens in the diplomatic chamber. "The creature is smaller than the drones. It should have been neutralized immediately." An elderly ambassador from a species that resembled a walking mantis turned to look at him. "Size is not everything, Counselor. Surely your species learned this during your own evolutionary history." On the screen, Old Stripes dodged another shock appendage and counterattacked, going for what looked like a sensory cluster on the drone's torso. The drone tried to shake the honey badger loose. Old Stripes held on with a grip that evolution had perfected over millions of years of digging, fighting and refusing to let go of anything it wanted. Dr. Tanaka kept one hand on Lily's shoulder, but her attention was on her communicator. She was recording every second of the fight and transmitting data to her science team. "Look at the combat pattern," she narrated quietly. "No wasted movement. Every attack targets vulnerable points. It is not fighting harder. It is fighting smarter." Ambassador Harrison finally pushed past the swarm drones blocking the doorway. They tried to stop him, but he drove forward with desperate strength, taking shock charges that left his muscles spasming. He fell through the doorway into the archives, gasping. Dad! Lily tried to run to him, but Dr. Tanaka held her back. Stay here, the scientist commanded. Do not get between predators. Old Stripes had disabled 2 drones now. The third was retreating, sending distress signals through the hive mind. More drones would come. The swarm was beginning to understand that their initial assessment had been catastrophically wrong. But Old Stripes did not understand retreat. It pursued the fleeing drone, moving with a loping gait that was deceptively fast. The drone tried to escape through the doorway. Old Stripes caught it at the threshold. Commander Okafor and her security team arrived just in time to see the third drone fall. They stood in the corridor, weapons ready but lowered. None of them could quite process what they were seeing. Is that what I think it is? One security officer whispered. That is impossible, another replied. They went extinct decades ago. Okafor stared at the honey badger. Old Stripes stared back, blood and hydraulic fluid dripping from its muzzle. For a moment, human and animal regarded each other. Then Okafor slowly holstered her weapon. Stand down, she ordered her team. Let it work. Through the station's communication system, the swarm hive mind broadcast a new message. Reassessing Earth threat classification. Requesting additional combat units for Archive Sector. Warning. Human species may be supported by biological weapons. Exercise increased caution. In his command center, Brath watched the screens with an expression that no longer held mockery. Around him, other counselors leaned forward, their attention fixed on the small creature that had just redefined humanity's place in their calculations. Old Stripes shook itself, spraying blood and fluids across the floor. Then it turned and limped back into the archives, moving toward the small human who smelled of fear, but had stood her ground. The honey badger understood. This one did not run. The swarm reinforcements arrived within minutes, but minutes meant everything when fighting a honey badger. Old Stripes had positioned itself between Lily and the doorway, a small guardian made of fury and determination. The new drones entered cautiously, their hive mind having updated threat protocols based on the previous encounter. 6 heavy combat units filled the corridor outside the archives. Each one was larger than the standard drones, built for ship-to-ship boarding actions and hostile environment assaults. Their armor was thicker. Their weapons were designed to penetrate military-grade plating. Commander Okafor pulled her security team back. Fall back to the intersection. We cannot fight these units head-on. We are leaving that animal, a young officer protested. That animal just did what a full security squad could not. Okafor replied. Watch and learn. The heavy combat units advanced in formation. Old Stripes watched them come with black eyes that held no fear, no doubt, no hesitation. The honey badger was bleeding from a dozen wounds now. One eye was swelling shut. It limped on a damaged rear leg. By any rational calculation, it should retreat. Old Stripes charged. The lead combat unit deployed a plasma blade, thinking to cut down the small attacker in one strike. Old Stripes went low, sliding under the blade and going for the leg joints. The heavier armor held, but the impact staggered the drone. While it tried to adjust, Old Stripes was already moving to the next target. Ambassador Harrison had pulled himself to his feet and stood beside Dr. Tanaka, both of them shielding Lily. He watched the honey badger fight with an expression of dawning understanding. This is what we were, he said quietly. Before cities, before civilization, before we became diplomats and politicians. Dr. Tanaka nodded. Humans evolved alongside predators like this. We did not beat them by being stronger. We survived because we were just as stubborn. Throughout the station, on every screen the swarm had not managed to disable, aliens watched the battle. In the diplomatic chamber, Counselor Brath had stopped mocking. He watched in silence as the small Earth creature fought impossible odds. Connect me to the security feeds from other sectors, he finally said. Show me where the humans are. An aide brought up multiple camera angles. In the detention areas where the swarm had herded human prisoners, people pressed against the transparent barriers, watching the honey badger fight. In the corridors where human security forces had fallen back, officers stood frozen, weapons lowered, eyes fixed on their communicator screens. And something was changing in those human faces. The fear was still there, but something else was rising underneath it, something old. Something that had been buried under millennia of civilization and space travel and diplomatic protocols. They remember, Brath said softly. They are remembering what they came from. Commander Okafor saw it too. She turned to her security team and saw officers who had been retreating moments ago now standing straighter. One sergeant looked at her with new determination. "Ma'am," he said, "that creature weighs maybe 15 kilograms. Those combat drones weigh over 300 kilograms each. If that animal can fight like that, what is our excuse?" Okafor felt something ignite in her chest. No excuse at all. She keyed her communicator to all security channels. "All units, this is Okafor. I am broadcasting on all frequencies so everyone can hear this, including our guests from the swarm." She paused, watching Old Stripes dodge another plasma blade and counterattack with relentless precision. "You are watching a honey badger. One of the smaller predators from Earth. It has fought lions. It has survived venomous bites that would kill any of us in minutes. It fights enemies 10 times its size. And you know what? My ancestors hunted alongside animals like this. We competed with them. We outlasted them." Her voice grew stronger. "The swarm has evaluated us as harmless. They see our soft skin and think we are prey. They are making the same mistake every predator on Earth made about humans. They are confusing civilization for weakness." In the detention areas, human prisoners listened. In the corridors, security forces gripped their weapons tighter. "All units," Okafor continued. "New orders. Stop retreating. Stop falling back. Show these swarm drones what humans really are. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest or the most armored. But we are the species that never stopped trying. We are the species that outlasted everything else on our world. And we are done being prey." The change rippled through the station like electricity. Human security forces that had been retreating turned and advanced. In the detention centers, prisoners began working together to disable locks and override containment fields. The swarm had sorted humans into the harmless category and put minimal guard forces on them. That was a mistake. Dr. Tanaka monitored the station network and saw the shift in real time. "The swarm is redirecting forces," she reported. "They are pulling combat units from other sectors to deal with the increased human resistance." Old Stripes had disabled 2 of the heavy combat units now, but the toll was severe. The honey badger moved slower, breathing in harsh gasps. Blood matted its fur. One front leg dragged uselessly, but still it fought. Still it refused to retreat. The remaining combat drones calculated that continued engagement was inefficient. They were built to conquer, not to trade losses with a single small predator. The hive mind made a decision and transmitted new orders. All 4 remaining combat units retreated simultaneously. Old Stripes took 3 steps after them, then collapsed. Lily broke free from her father's grip and ran to the fallen honey badger.
"No, get up!"
"You won." Dr. Tanaka rushed forward with a medical scanner. "It is alive but badly injured. We need to get it to medical immediately." Ambassador Harrison helped lift the unconscious honey badger, marveling at how something so small could weigh so much. Muscle and bone and will made solid. He carried it out of the archives while Okafor's security team provided escort. In the corridors, the sounds of fighting had changed. Humans were pushing back. The swarm found itself engaged not by prey animals cowering in fear, but by persistent hunters who refused to stop. In the diplomatic chamber, counselors watched multiple feeds showing human security forces fighting with renewed intensity. One alien ambassador turned to Brath. "You said humans were weak. You said they were prey animals." Brath watched a screen showing Commander Okafor leading a charge that drove swarm forces back 3 sections. "I said humans appeared weak. I was wrong. Appearance and reality are not the same thing." Throughout the station, the swarm hive mind was recalculating. Humans were proving far more costly to process than initial assessments had indicated. The small Earth predator had revealed something important about human psychology. They were not a species that gave up when facing superior force. They were a species that fought harder. The swarm did not understand stubbornness. They understood efficiency and resource management. Humans were becoming inefficient targets. The order rippled through the hive mind. Disengage, withdraw, reassess. In the medical bay, Dr. Tanaka worked frantically to stabilize Old Stripes while Lily held the honey badger's paw. The animal's breathing was shallow and labored. It had given everything it had. The question now was whether that would be enough to survive. Outside, the swarm began their retreat. Old Stripes died at dawn station time. Lily sat beside the medical table holding the honey badger's paw as the life monitors went quiet. Dr. Tanaka had done everything possible, but the injuries were too severe. The honey badger had pushed its body past every biological limit, and there was nothing left to give. Lily cried silently while her father stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder. Dr. Tanaka removed her medical gloves and closed her eyes for a long moment. "We got DNA samples before it passed," she said quietly. "Complete genetic material. We can preserve it properly this time." "It should not have had to fight," Lily whispered. "It was sleeping. It was peaceful. I woke it up to die." Ambassador Harrison knelt beside his daughter. "You woke it up to save lives. Hundreds of people made it to safety while the swarm was dealing with old stripes and the resistance it inspired. That creature died doing what its whole species was designed to do. It never surrendered." Commander Okafor entered the medical bay, her uniform torn and blood-stained but her expression victorious. "The swarm has retreated. Their ship just detached and jumped out of the system. We held the station." She saw old stripes on the table and her expression softened. "I wanted to thank it personally. We monitored the combat efficiency. That animal disabled 6 drones and disrupted their entire tactical network. Military analysts are already calling it the most successful single combatant action in the invasion." "It was a honey badger," Dr. Tanaka said. "Fighting was what they did. They did not know any other way to be. Like humans," Okafor said quietly. A message came through on Harrison's communicator. "The Galactic Council has requested an emergency session. All ambassadors are to report immediately." The diplomatic chamber was different now. The counselors who had sat in judgment over humanity's worthiness now looked at Ambassador Harrison with new respect. Counselor Brath stood as Harrison entered. "Ambassador Harrison," Brath said formally. "The Soren Dominion wishes to address its previous statements regarding human capability. We were wrong. We evaluated your species based on superficial biological markers and failed to understand your true nature." Harrison took his seat slowly. "And what is our true nature, Counselor?" "You are persistence hunters," said the elderly mantis-like ambassador. "My species studied your evolutionary history after today's events. Humans evolved to chase prey over long distances until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. You did not need venom or claws or armor. You simply refused to stop." Another counselor, a floating jellyfish-like being, pulsed with bioluminescent light. The honey badger demonstrated this same trait. It fought until it physically could not continue. Your species preserved that animal. "May I ask why?" Harrison thought carefully before answering. "Because it reminded us of what we had to become to survive. Earth was not a kind world. Every species there evolved to kill or to avoid being killed. Humans had no natural advantages except one. We could keep going when everything else gave up." The honey badger had the same trait. "In a way, they were our reflection." "They went extinct," Brath observed. "Despite this incredible persistence, why?" "Because they competed with us for the same resources," Harrison admitted. "The wolves, the bears, the tigers, the honey badgers. They were all trying to survive in the same world we needed to survive in. We did not hunt them for sport or out of cruelty. We just needed the same food, the same territory, the same water, and we outlasted them all." The chamber fell silent as the council absorbed this. Finally, Brath spoke again. "The swarm has never retreated from a prey species before. They have never evaluated a target as inefficient based on resistance alone. You understand what this means?" Harrison nodded slowly. "It means the galaxy now knows that humans are not prey." "More than that," Brath said. "It means the galaxy now understands that humans are the species that outlasted Earth's predators. You are not warriors in the traditional sense. You are something more dangerous. You are survivors who cannot be stopped." The council voted unanimously. Humanity was accepted into the Galactic Council, not as a prey species, not as a warrior race, but as a new classification. Persistence species. Species that survived through sheer refusal to give up. 3 days later, Lily planted a small memorial in the station's garden dome. A simple plaque read, "Old Stripes, last of the honey badgers, died defending others, never surrendered." Dr. Tanaka stood beside her as other humans came to pay respects. Many of them were security officers who had been inspired to fight back during the invasion. They stood in silence before the memorial, each one understanding that they owed their lives to a creature that had been extinct for decades. "I have something to show you," Dr. Tanaka said to Lily after the ceremony. She led the girl back to the biological archives, to a new cryo chamber that had been installed beside the old one. Inside, preserved in perfect stasis, were the DNA samples taken from old stripes. The Council has approved a conservation initiative, Dr. Tanaka explained. When we find a suitable world, one that can support them, we will bring back the honey badgers. And the wolves and the bears and all the others. They deserve to have a world where they do not have to compete with us. Will they forgive us? Lily asked. For taking their world? Dr. Tanaka smiled sadly. I think they would understand. They fought for their survival just like we fought for ours. Neither side was wrong. It was just the way evolution works. Ambassador Harrison arrived to collect his daughter. As they walked through the station, aliens stepped aside respectfully. Some nodded. Others simply watched with new wariness. Humanity had proven something important, not through technology or weapons, but by revealing their true nature. Dad, Lily said as they rode the elevator back to their quarters, why did we become civilized if we were so good at surviving as we were? Harrison considered the question. Because survival is not the same as living. We could outlast the predators, but that did not make us happy. Civilization, art, science, exploration, those things make life worth more than just surviving. But we still remember, Lily said, how to survive, how to keep fighting. Yes, Harrison agreed. We remember, and now the galaxy knows it too. In the biological archives, Old Stripes remained in its memorial chamber, a reminder of what humanity had faced and overcome. The honey badgers had almost managed to survive humans. Almost. And in their failure, they had taught the galaxy an important lesson about the species that had outlasted them. Earth had no great beasts left, not because humans were cruel, but because humans were unkillable competitors. Every species that went extinct on Earth had been tested by the same environment that forged humanity. The difference was not capability. The difference was persistence. And now, among the stars, that truth would be remembered.